Hey, welcome. I am so excited because today we're talking about something very special, something that doesn't get talked about pretty much ever in terms of homeschooling, which are the hidden benefits that no one really acknowledges. And if they do acknowledge it, they acknowledge it on a surface level. And what I want to talk to you about today is something that really matters. This is so important to how you homeschool and what the results are and what you're going to get out of your homeschool journey. Because we're not just raising kids. We're not just doing education. We're raising adults. That's what we're doing in parenting. And we had an event this weekend that actually showed why there are so many amazing benefits to homeschooling intentionally with the end in mind. And that's what we're really talking about. Homeschooling intentionally with the end in mind. I've talked to you about that a lot. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to listen to some other episodes because this is something that we really need to keep in mind, that we're raising adults and we're not just raising good students. Do you know what I'm saying? If you don't, just hang in there. I'm going to share with you something that happened this weekend in our family that really brought this home. So my son, Kenyon, he is 17 years old at the time of this recording, and he is a martial artist. He's been a martial artist since he was 5. And this weekend, he went up for his black belt pretest. Now, this is just a pretest. This is just to qualify to take the real test. And this pretest is a gigantic deal. This is huge. He trains in Kajukenbo, which is a mixed martial art. It's a specialized martial art that's pretty much only practiced in Hawaii and the West Coast here in California, but there are a few other places. This is a huge test. In our dojo, it's a very big deal. And it's a 1.5-day pretest. We're talking about training, all the training they've ever learned, all the techniques, written, physical, all the things. There's so many different things they're testing them on. And this test requires them to grow, not just grow physically and in their skills, which is also true, but to grow mentally. And that's one thing I really do love about our dojo is it's really creating and building a person. So we had this pretest and we've been preparing for this for literally a year, but mostly in the last 6 months. And we've had a lot of mentoring conversations, which has made all the difference. We have built a mentoring relationship in which he seeks out my opinions, my advice, my counsel in the way that he's thinking, the way that he's growing, the way that he's practicing things, all kinds of things. And we talk about it. We talk about what it looks like. We talk about how to help him. We talk about routines, all these things. You're thinking homeschooling, routines, schedules, because that's normally what we talk about when we talk about homeschooling, right? Routines, schedules, curriculum, and doing the what should my student be learning? What should my child be learning at this age grade? But guess what? These mentor conversations, they're everything. They're everything. They really are a backbone of what we've been building over time. I'm going to talk about more about that in a second. But so the black belt pretest, it didn't go so great the first day. There were some highs, and there were some very lows, and he came back pretty upset. So we sat in the car for about 30 minutes after we got back at like 11 o'clock at night. And he was upset mostly at himself. He knew what he needed to do differently, and he was really upset that he didn't do it. And so he talked about what he should have done. We debriefed all of it. And then he got real quiet. With tears in his eyes, he said, "I'm done. I'm done. I'm done feeling like this. I'm done. I will do whatever it takes. I'm going to control and really calm my mindset, and I'm going to show up." I really saw the fire in his eyes. I saw that level of commitment. And then we talked about what that looks like. He still had another whole day of testing. So, what does that look like tomorrow? It's all great and nice to say it now, but what does it look like tomorrow? And guess what? Saturday, it didn't go perfect either. There were some highs, there were some lows. But when he got in the car, he had this calmness about him. We were talking about some of the other students and how well they did. He talked about himself, and he was just very matter of fact about it. He wasn't upset, which is normally what would happen. He really had this air about what happened, and he even said, "What happened, happened. And whatever happens out of this, I know some places to improve, and I know some places where I did really well." Then he was just his air, the attitude, the mindset he had was so different than I had seen before, especially after this very rigorous whole 2-day experience. That was a huge win for us. That was a huge win for him because we'd had all these conversations, all these mentoring conversations for years, and working hard and failure and success and all these things. And that win of really showing up and controlling his mindset. Oh, that's the door opening to whatever happens. We won't find out the results of whether he actually gets to test or not for black belt until probably next week. But either way, what a huge win. That just solidified to me, and it reminded me of all the things in homeschool, if we're doing it intentionally with the end in mind, that we don't talk about, that is so amazing, so important to building and raising a capable, independent, lifelong learner who's prepared for anything in life. I'm going to share with you a few more benefits that I thought about as I was just contemplating and reflecting on this event. One of the things is that you can raise kids who do hard things. That's something I hear about a lot from parents. Is my kid doesn't want to do hard things, or typically we force them to do box checking work, things they don't want to do in academics, things that aren't fun, because we want to teach them how to do hard things. I'm going to blow your mind a little bit here, but I'm just going to say that teaching them how to do hard things does not come from forcing them to do worksheets and workbooks. Does that feel a little weird? I'm sorry. I had to learn that too. Trust me, I had to learn it too. There was a time when we were doing that, and it just resulted in a lot of tears and low love of learning. And since then, as I've mentored more and more families, it is the exact same thing. It does not come from that. But the way that Kenyon chose his mindset, it's hard, right? That's a hard thing. To even want to do this pretest is a hard thing. And so he chose to do something hard because the goal of education is not just to have them learn stuff, have them learn, academic skills and have them learn information. It's to raise a child who can respond and knows how to respond when they come up against hard things, because they're going to, aren't they? And the way that we do that is the number 2 benefit, which is to raise a child who wants to learn. I talk about that a lot, don't I? Raise a child who wants to learn. I know that sounds weird. It sounds weird, but when they want to learn, so many doors get opened up for us. Because usually what we're thinking is that if it's fun, it's not rigorous enough. And so when we do the rigorous things, it's not fun. Does that make sense? And then we force them to do the rigorous things that are not fun because we have this mindset, and then love of learning drops, and then we have kids that don't want to do hard things, and it just snowballs from there. We have the homeschool breakdown trap, which I talk about a lot. When it is engaging and meaningful, when their education, when their environment, when the family culture that you create is engaging and meaningful, they want to go deeper. I know it's crazy to think about, but really, let's talk about that because if it makes sense, doesn't it make sense that if and it makes sense for you. If you find something engaging, don't you want to dig in a little harder? Don't you want to do a little more? Don't you want to see where that rabbit trail takes you? It's like that for kids too. And math. And math. They not only want to dig in more, but they will actually retain more and they'll apply it. Man, it's crazy. It is opposite of what we normally think for education, right? But remember, we're raising adults, we're raising whole people. We're not just raising students and good students. That leads me to the third thing, the third benefit that I want to talk about, which is raising a whole person. So having a family that is super connected. That's one of the things that when I was talking to one of my newest Inspiring Lifelong Learning Academy members, she was saying that. She was saying, I want to be connected as a family. And when we do that, we're raising a whole person. A whole person. Everything is connected. They're learning their academics. They're learning about life. They're learning about doing hard things. They're learning about life skills and communication skills and all the rest. Martial arts. It's all connected. That is the beauty, man. That family connected. The siblings getting connected. I know. Right now, that seems pretty wild. I get it. But they do. I've seen it happen. I've worked with families where we've brought that closer together. That's the beauty. That's a benefit. And the relationship you have with your kids that is so powerful in the way that they see themselves, the way they interact with the world, and the way that they interact with you. Their conversations. And I've told you guys this about I told you guys about this conversation before, but we often have, my son and I, lots of conversations that go on for hours talking about, maybe it stems from a world event or, something in the news or something that happened to us or whatever, or something maybe that he read or something I read. Maybe it's just a Facebook reel. And we end up talking for hours. And it goes from politics to human nature to academics to history to government to talking about science. All of those things in one conversation. Now tell me, do you want your kids to learn the things, or do you want your kids to learn the things and be able to apply them in context outside of a textbook? That's the difference. One of our Inspiring Lifelong Learning Academy members, she loved that when her kids did that. She was talking all the time about how her kids used on trips and stuff, or when they're looking out the window and they're talking about different things. Oh yeah, I remember. That's when we talked about how bridges are built, and that's when we talked about gravity. That's so fun. It's so fun when your kids remember and they're connecting things together. Woo! That's amazing. And then you're creating better relationships with your kids when you have those conversations because you're not just saying, okay, here, do your workbook and then let's do life. You're saying, let's put it all together and then our relationships become connected as well. That leads me to my final benefit, which is the mentorship relationship you can have with your kids. That type of holistic thinking of like we're raising a whole person, we're raising a whole adult. We're not just raising kids who know how to do math and then they know how to do the laundry. We're raising them, they know how the math relates to the laundry. They know how to do all these things in context. Because ultimately life is life, it's not separate, right? And the mentoring relationship you have with your kids, I am so, so, so grateful. I just feel so incredibly blessed and like, I can't even imagine not having that relationship with my son. That's one of the reasons why I started homeschooling in the first place was I had my son because I wanted to spend time with him, not because I wanted to ship him off to a school. And I think that's one of the reasons why you probably homeschooled. Maybe that's not why you started homeschooling, but I promise you can get there. You can get there. My son and the conversations that we've had over the last year, over the last entire journey of homeschooling, and especially with his martial arts leading up to this black belt pretest, this is the reason why he had this tremendous shift happen. He comes to me and asks me for advice, for counsel, and then he really uses it. Maybe not the first time, but he hears it, he listens, and he knows, he applies it and says, that makes sense. I get it. Like I said, still a teenager. Sometimes it doesn't always apply right away, but he does remember that and he gets it. And we talk about things all the time. And he asks me, what should I do here? I feel like this conversation is really hard. When Dad and I talk about this one thing, we always argue. How can I approach that situation and that topic without getting in an argument? That's something he actually said. Like, I mean, a couple years ago before he was 17. Actually, several years ago. He was pretty young. He was like 14, 15. Probably more like 14. Who says that? Taking responsibility and ownership for his part in a conversation and then also seeking out counsel and guidance on how he can do it better. What? Most adults don't do that. So I am just blown away. That is just something I didn't think was possible at the time when he was 5 years old and 6 years old and we were both crying every day homeschooling. I didn't know that, but it is possible. And that's the best journey. This mentoring is the basis for and the foundation for all the other things to happen. Okay. It's the kids come to you. And this is where everything really changes, because we're not just managing our kids' education. We're actually mentoring them into the person that they're going to become. I want to say that again because I really want you to hear that. This is where we shift from managing our children's education to mentoring them into the person that they're going to become. That is so important. That's a huge shift. And that's exactly what I'm passionate about. That's exactly what I'm trying to do in this world. What I'm on a mission to do is to change our thinking about education into raising whole people instead of just here's their education and then here's their person, here's their life. That's not the separate. They're the same. And that's exactly what I teach every single day. That's what I teach you in these podcasts. That's what I teach in the Inspiring Lifelong Learning Academy. And that's what I teach in the Inspiring Lifelong Learners Masterclass. If you missed this one, go ahead and seek out when the next one is, because it's going to happen again. But I want you to think about building this shift in your family. And if you're thinking, I want to do that, but I don't know how, you need to really think about coming to the Inspiring Lifelong Learning Masterclass, Learners Masterclass, because the Inspiring Lifelong Learners Masterclass is exactly what it's exactly what I'm walking you through, is how to do this step by step. And it's exactly what I teach families how to do all the time, is to really shift from managing our children's education to mentoring them to become the capable, independent, prepared young person that can do whatever they want to do in the world. That they have the confidence and they have the knowledge, they have the ability to apply it, and they know they can learn anything, anywhere, anytime if they need to. Doesn't that sound just so, that fills my soul. That sounds so amazing. And it's possible for you, no matter where you're starting from. I know you can do this because building that kind of a culture that I just talked about with all those benefits, building the systems, routines, building the habits, the how-tos, and the step-by-steps of every day that lead up to that result. That's what I love to do. And I can't wait to meet you, and we'll talk about your situation, and we'll share every step-by-step how-to in the Inspiring Lifelong Learners Masterclass. Go ahead and check out the show notes. I'll leave you a link in there. And if you missed this one that's coming up on the 16th, which is when this will air, it's the same day that this will air, I want you to look into the next one and see when the next one will be. You can always message me and ask. Okay? You guys got this. I know that you can have this for yourself and your kids. I've done it before myself. I've done it with other families, and you can have it too. I believe in you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.